What's going on, friend? We are tracking two major systems. The second one could be significant for the Northeast as we flip the calendar page into May. We're also going to check in on the Caribbean. It's been pretty active on the eastern side of the sea. And the cold to follow that second system in the Northeast. We've been talking about this for quite some time now. We're going to break down the science and meteorology behind it. If you want to nerd out with us, stick around towards the end of the video for that. If you're interested in the Caribbean forecast, I have the chapters listed in the description. Click on those time codes, and that will take you to exactly where you want to go. We're going to start things off stateside with storm number one. We'll go in order. We're going to start things off on Thursday morning, and here we go. A lot of heavy rain coming through parts of Louisiana into Arkansas, Tennessee, especially the western side into Kentucky. This guy is eventually going to make a beeline for the eastern seaboard and then exit around the Carolinas. Watch this thing kind of flare up a little bit. I alluded to this in one of my previous videos, but this looks like the El Nino pattern is really trying to come on full force with this very active southern branch of the jet stream here, pumping in all of this moisture into the northern Gulf Coast states, into Florida. Again, this is Thursday evening. Tons and tons of moisture getting ready to just slam the Florida Peninsula as we head into Friday. Want to take you out now into Friday evening. So this is post all of the heavy rain on Friday. This storm, at least in Florida, this storm then really wraps up here. Big storm off of the Carolina coast. So we could have some major coastal issues here with that breeze out of the Northeast, places like New Jersey, into the Delmarva, and then into the North Carolina, especially the Barrier Islands there with that system. I want to focus your attention to the west. Again, we're looking on Friday, at least further west in this. We have a little bit of rain into parts of the Midwest. We have rain and snow in the upper Midwest and into southern Canada. These are going to be the two weak systems at this point, but then kind of combined to form potentially really big headache storm in the Northeast as we move into May 1st, May 2nd timeframe. And I want to kind of show you the start of that progression here. Notice the two kind of get a little stronger as we move into Sunday. This is Sunday morning. Here is piece one. Here is piece two. There's that area of low pressure. For the rest of this story, though, we're going to get a little nerdy. We're going to go upstairs. And again, going to the mid-levels and upper levels of our atmosphere is critical. I'll take you back to the kind of the progression of that system in just 1 second, but I want to fast forward now to Monday. I mentioned that we had two systems kind of playing with each other. Here is our southern branch storm. Now that's going to be kind of flung up towards Long Island. And then here is our northern branch system, this big upper low that's hanging out over the Great Lakes. It's going to be this guy here that pulls up the southern stream, that southern storm, and kind of phase and to make one bigger storm that kind of explodes at the surface. And then this is kind of what we get. This is Monday morning now back to the surface. So you see how critical it is, again, to make sure that we are identifying what is going on in the upper levels of our atmosphere. But nonetheless, that big upper low kind of hanging back here. And then we have this intensifying surface low. If this comes into fruition, and there's more model support, this is the GFS. I'll show you the Euro in 1 second. But here is our strengthening system here. This is going to be a lot of heavy rain, several inches of rain into eastern Pennsylvania, New York City, Long Island. Not to mention here, we're going to have a very strong wind out of the southeast, kind of pummeling the Massachusetts coastline, Cape Cod, again, Long Island, Rhode Island, getting into Massachusetts again, getting into Connecticut over the early stages, the first couple of days of May before that slides back up. I wanted to show you the European solution. It is very, very similar. So again, this gives us a little more confidence. The other thing that I want to point out, well, we have this big storm kind of brewing off of New England here. And again, this is going to be Monday morning, May 1st. I want to show you this blue line here. You see where that blue line is? Thumbs up in the video if you see where that blue line is. That is what we call the 540 line. Essentially, the 540 line, it's a thickness line, but it essentially is your rain snow line. It doesn't always work out perfectly. You have to do a little more inspection in the mid to upper levels of your atmosphere. But nonetheless, that is where we have some really cold air, and that is going to be blasting in right in behind that system. We're going to get into the overall pattern and why This was the pattern that we so desperately wanted for snow lovers in the Northeast, and we just didn't get. Stick around for a couple more minutes, and I promise I will get into that. Wanted to show you again some subtle differences here in the European upper level solution. There's our little guy here. They don't phase as much, so the European solution is a little bit weaker, something that we're going to be watching going forward. But the point with this one is there is likely going to be a storm and the potential for a significant storm in and around the New York City area as we get into the last day of April, May 1st, and then May 2nd, as both of these kind of roll up the northeast coast. So just keep that in mind, that we're going to really ramp up the active stretch. I mentioned about the El Nino again. That is exactly a storm that would be born in an El Nino winter. You get an active southern stream of the jet. You have some colder air coming here, and then they phase right about there, and bam, blast the I-95 corridor. It came about 3 months too late. Sorry, snow lovers. Let's hope we keep this pattern, though, as we move into winter. It certainly looks like we're going to blast an El Nino here as we get deeper into the summer and into the fall. I want to show you now the temperature anomalies, and I can't call out every single city here because we'd literally be talking for hours, which is fine. But I do want to point out the anomalies here. So this is going to be the temperature anomaly. And what you're looking at here is the anomaly at 850 millibars, a couple of thousand feet above your head. But what this shows is that temperatures in that region, really from the Rockies all the way into South Florida and then eventually New England, are going to be running about 15 to 30 degrees below normal. So this is significant cold for this time of the year. Not going to freeze you out by any means in terms of like the dead of winter cold or anything like that, but relative to normal. So if you are watching from Chicago or Pittsburgh or Nashville, take what you would typically see on a late April, early May afternoon and shave off 15 to 30 degrees. It is going to be cold again from the Rockies points east. You see all of this red. West of the Rockies, the warmth is going to surge. We've talked about this too. We're watching closely here. The snowpack in the Sierra, we do not want to have all of that melt fast. That would cause some big time flooding issues as well. So with me, because we are about to break this down from the upper level pattern. This, guys, this is the pattern that we wanted all winter long. I know it looks like a bunch of colors and lines, but we are going to break this down. Look at this. Ridge out west. That is why we are so warm. California, Washington, Oregon, Western Nevada especially. And then we also have this big ridge, this blocking. If you're a weather geek like me and a lot of us that follow this channel, and again, if you do love the weather, hit subscribe. Hurricane season right around the corner. You gotta hit subscribe to stay updated. Anyway, the NAO is very, very negative. When the NAO is negative, that means essentially what I'm showing you here is that we have a lot of blocking going on towards Greenland. Here is Greenland right here. When that happens, that allows the cold to kind of spill right down from the poles. And then that also helps to keep storms locked right to the coast. So not only do we have the cold coming down, we also have the blocking here. And it's if we saw this in January, we'd be talking about a ridiculous snowstorm for the I-95 corridor. But it's about to be May. As Justin Timberlake once said, and it's just not that cold. It's going to be cold relative to normal, but just not that cold again. So that's the pattern that we want to look for in the winter. Ridge out west, blocking high up here, cold going down, and then storm undercutting. All that blue is the temperatures below normal. And again, that's going to funnel right across the poles and then into areas, again, east of the Rockies. It is going to be really, really chilly relative to normal. All right, my friends in the Caribbean, we've got you guys covered. Again, if you're interested in the weather in the Caribbean, staying up to date, especially as we get into hurricane season, please hit subscribe. We would love to have you guys on board. And we have a lot of friends that watch in Jamaica, St. Lucia, into Trinidad and Tobago as well. And speaking of Trinidad and Tobago, it's been very, very active for us the last couple of days. You see, you can hardly find the island because of the thunderstorms. That's what we are seeing here as of Tuesday, April 25th in the afternoon. The darker colors here represent the more intense thunderstorms. You see that big flare up here is this kind of disturbance over northern South America works its way through. We're seeing all that inclement weather get up into St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada as well, Barbados. We are getting rocked with some of those thunderstorms. And this pattern is going to continue for us over the next couple of days. This is kind of a wide view here of the Caribbean. We could use some of that rain in Jamaica. Also in Puerto Rico, we have drought developing, and there is a little bit of rain. We're going to look at the forecast model now for Wednesday evening. That is 0Z on Thursday, April 27th. And you see, we are still dealing with that wet pattern all the way for us into Dominica, into Martinique, again, St. Lucia, Barbados. Barbados is right there, Trinidad and Tobago. And then St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, we're going to be dealing with that wet pattern. Also some very nasty weather, some stronger thunderstorms as well in parts of Central America, Nicaragua, Honduras, southern Mexico into the Yucatan. We're going to be watching that closely. We're going to take this further out in time now. We're going to give you kind of an outlook here as we move into Thursday evening. We do get some of that moisture into Jamaica, just a little bit. Also into the Dominican Republic and Haiti, Puerto Rico. We're going to get in on that as well. This system, if my friends in the Caribbean were watching the part for the United States, right in here, this is eventually going to work out towards the Bahamas and maybe even into the Turks and Caicos and Cuba. And I'll take you further out in time here and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Doesn't quite get to a lot of Cuba, but it's close. It gets towards the Florida Straits and then into the western Bahamas as well. We still have a few scattered showers and thunderstorms as of Saturday morning for us in parts of the Leeward and Windward Islands. I think we're going to quiet things down, relatively speaking, from what we've been dealing with on Monday and Tuesday, the 24th and 25th of April. But nonetheless, we could dry things out. Of course, last year we were getting rocked with those daily thunderstorms. In Trinidad and Tobago, had a lot of flooding. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Always like to break down the science. That's why we got a little nerdy today. A lot of reason to get weather geeked out with the upper level pattern. Again, I can't stress this enough. If we were looking at this pattern through the lower 48 and into North America, into the North Pole, this would be an awesome snowstorm. This storm that we showed you, though, just a little bit ago, it is going to be very impactful and pretty significant for the Northeast in terms of potentially coastal flooding, some very heavy rain. And while it will be cold and while it will be raw, not cold enough for snow. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It means a ton to me when you guys comment and we have the conversation about the weather. I love it. If you love it, please give this video a thumbs up. Please hit subscribe, and we will catch you next time.